All right, so today we're gonna dive into the world of Béla Tarr,
Okay.
a Hungarian filmmaker
Mhm.
whose work is, well, how should I put this? It's not exactly a light and breezy watch.
Yeah.
Long takes, black and white, a certain bleakness.
Right.
It might sound a bit intimidating at first.
Definitely, it's a unique experience,
Yeah,
but I think that's part of what draws people to Tar's films.
right.
They're challenging, but they also offer a depth and a richness that you just don't find in your average blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating, right? You've got this filmmaker who's known for these really demanding films,
Mhm.
and yet he has this devoted following.
Right.
What is it about his work that resonates so strongly with people? That's
Right.
what we're going to try to uncover today.
I think to understand Tar's films, you have to understand a bit about his background.
Okay.
So he was born in Hungary in 1955,
Okay.
and his early work was very much rooted in social realism.
So like almost documentary style.
Yeah, almost documentary style, focusing on the lives of working class people.
Okay.
But then his style started to shift, becoming more poetic, more focused on atmosphere and mood.
So it's like he developed this whole new cinematic language.
Right.
And a big part of that is this concept of slow cinema.
Yes.
Now, I think a lot of people hear that term and they think, okay, this is going to be boring.
Right.
But it's so much more than just slow pacing, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Slow cinema isn't about bombarding you with information and action.
Mm-hmm.
It's about slowing down, observing, contemplating.
Right.
It's about drawing you into the world of the film and letting you experience it on its own terms.
I'm imagining like a very different kind of intensity than what we usually see in films.
Yeah.
How does Tarr create that tension without relying on like the typical action elements?
He does it through his mastery of cinematic techniques.
Okay.
For example, those incredibly long takes he's known for.
Yeah. How long are we talking?
We're not talking about quick cuts here. We're talking shots that can last for several minutes,
Wow.
holding you in that moment,
Yeah.
letting you feel the weight of time along with the characters.
Okay, so that sounds intense.
Yeah.
I can see how that would really draw you into the film's world.
Yeah.
Are there any other stylistic elements that contribute to that feeling?
Absolutely. The decision to shoot in black and white, for instance, isn't just a stylistic quirk.
Okay.
It strips away the distraction of color,
Okay.
allowing you to focus on the textures, the light, the composition of the image.
Mm-hmm.
It also creates a sense of timelessness, like you're watching something that exists outside of the everyday world.
All right.
And then there's a use of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Tarr isn't afraid to let a scene play out without dialogue,
Right.
giving you the space to absorb the visuals, the sounds, the atmosphere.
It sounds like he's really playing with the audience's expectations.
Yes.
Challenging us to engage with the film in a different way. I guess it does make me wonder, though, is there a risk that his style could become too detached or even alienating for some viewers?
There's definitely a learning curve with Tarr's films.
Okay.
They demand your attention, your patience.
Yeah.
Not everyone is willing to make that commitment.
Sure.
But for those who are, the rewards can be immense.
So it's not about passive viewing.
But
It's
yeah.
about actively engaging with the experience.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got this distinct style, this slow, immersive approach.
Yeah.
Now let's dive into some of the films that really exemplify this.
Okay.
We've got 4 key ones to discuss, starting with Damnation, released in 1988.
All right.
So tell me about that one.
Damnation is considered a turning point in Tarr's career,
Okay.
where his style really started to solidify. It's a noirish film set in this crumbling Hungarian town,
Okay.
saturated with rain and despair.
Oh, wow.
You've got love triangles, betrayal, a sense of stagnation, both in the characters and the setting.
So speaking of epic, his film Sátántangó takes this idea of slow cinema to a whole other level.
Well, it does.
I mean, 7.5 hours long?
Right.
That's a serious commitment, even for the most dedicated cinephile.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's like a haunting waltz through decay and disillusionment,
Wow.
set in this isolated village where time seems to have stopped.
Right.
Tarr really delves into themes of human nature and corruption and the weight of history in this one.
Yeah.
It's not a film you just watch. It's a film you live through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then in 2000, he released Werckmeister Harmonies, which takes us in a slightly different direction.
Okay.
You still have that bleak atmosphere, that slow, deliberate pacing, but there's this element of mystery and the surreal that comes into play.
Yeah, I read that it involves a circus and a giant stuffed whale.
Right.
That's not something you see every day.
It's this fascinating juxtaposition,
Yeah.
this fantastical element of the whale against this backdrop of this rundown, isolated town.
Right.
The arrival of the circus disrupts the town's fragile equilibrium,
Mm.
and things start to unravel.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like a parable about the dangers of blind faith and the fragility of social order.
It sounds like there's a lot to unpack there, both visually and thematically.
Yeah.
And then there's Tarr's final film, The Turin Horse, which he made in 2011.
Right.
What can you tell us about that one?
The Turin Horse is a powerful and moving film,
Okay.
even by Tarr standards.
Yeah.
It's inspired by a story about Nietzsche witnessing a man beating a horse,
Oh, wow.
which supposedly led to the philosopher's mental breakdown.
Right.
But the film itself focuses on a farmer and his daughter trapped in this seemingly endless cycle of daily drudgery.
Oh, wow.
You see them struggling to survive, facing the harsh realities of their existence.
It sounds incredibly bleak,
Okay.
but also deeply human.
It is, and it's interesting to think about this film as Tarr's final statement as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's saying, this is the essence of human existence.
Yeah.
This struggle, this perseverance in the face of adversity. There's no easy answers, no grand resolutions, just the stark reality of life and death.
And did he influence other filmmakers with this particular style and the slow cinema movement?
His influence is undeniable.
Yeah.
Even though he stepped away from filmmaking, you see it in the work of directors like Gus Van Sant and Lav Diaz,
Okay.
who've embraced a similar approach to pacing and atmosphere.
Mm.
They're not imitating Tarr, but you can see his fingerprints on their work.
So it's like he opened up a whole new way of thinking about cinema,
Right.
proving that you don't need fast cuts and explosions to create a powerful and lasting impact on the viewer.
Exactly. And that's a pretty incredible legacy to leave behind.
So we've talked about his background, his style, and the key films that defined his career. But let's circle back to that initial question. What is it about Béla Tarr's films that draws people in? Why do they resonate so strongly with certain viewers?
Well, I think part of it is that his films offer a different kind of cinematic experience, one that's more immersive, more contemplative. They demand your attention. They ask you to slow down and really engage with the images, the sounds, the emotions on screen. And in a world that's constantly bombarding us with information and stimulation, that can be a very appealing prospect.
It's almost like a form of resistance,
Yeah.
a way of pushing back against the constant noise and distractions of modern life.
I think there's an element of that,
Yeah.
yes, but it's also about the depth and richness of his films.
Right.
They're not easy watches,
Yeah.
but they offer something that you don't find in your typical Hollywood fare. They're layered, complex, thought-provoking.
Right.
They stay with you long after the credits roll.
And maybe that's part of the appeal, too.
Yeah.
The fact that they're challenging. It's like you're being invited to participate in a conversation, to grapple with big ideas, to confront uncomfortable truths.
That's a great point.
Right.
I think there's a certain satisfaction that comes from engaging with art that demands something of you that doesn't spoon-feed you answers.
Right.
And Tarr's films certainly fit that description of.
You know, as we're talking about this, I keep thinking about how Tarr's films are almost the antithesis of the way we consume so much media today.
Yeah.
It's all about instant gratification, short bursts of content, constantly scrolling and swiping.
It's a stark contrast, that's for sure.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if there's something we're losing in that constant need for instant gratification. Are we missing out on the depth, the nuance, the beauty that can come from slowing down and really immersing ourselves in an experience?
That's an excellent question, and I think it's one that each of us needs to answer for ourselves.
Yeah.
There's certainly value in being able to process information quickly to adapt to a rapidly changing world.
But maybe there's also value in pushing back against that
Yeah.
and carving out time for experiences that demand our full attention, that challenge us to think and feel deeply.
Absolutely, and I think Tarr's films offer a powerful reminder of that.
I think for anyone listening who's curious about exploring Tarr's work, Damnation is a great starting point.
Yeah.
It's one of his shorter films, relatively speaking. But even that one requires you to shift your mindset a bit,
Yeah.
to embrace a different kind of cinematic language.
I agree, and don't be afraid to take breaks, to let the images and emotions sink in. It's not about rushing through it, it's about savoring the experience.
I think a lot of people hear the term slow cinema and they assume it's going to be boring or pretentious.
Right.
But with Tarr, it's anything but.
Yeah.
There's so much happening beneath the surface, so much to discover if you're willing to take the time.
He's a master of atmosphere, of creating these worlds that feel both familiar and otherworldly. You're drawn in by the beauty of the images, the haunting music, the raw emotion of the performances.
It sounds like a truly unique cinematic experience.
It is, and it's one that I encourage everyone to experience for themselves.
Yeah.
You might not love every film he made,
Yeah.
but you'll definitely come away from it with a new appreciation for the power of cinema.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored Tarr's background, his unique style, his key films, and the impact he's had on the world of cinema.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
I'm all ears.
If Tarr's films are all about slowing down, observing, contemplating,
Right.
what does that say about our own fast-paced, image-saturated world?
Mm.
Are we missing something by constantly rushing from one thing to the next?
Yeah.
Are we losing the ability to truly see, to truly feel?
That's a powerful question, and I think it's one that deserves careful consideration.
Yeah.
Maybe we can all learn something from Tarr's approach to filmmaking, even if we don't all become converts to slow cinema.
Right?
Maybe there's a balance to be found, a way to embrace the benefits of our fast-paced world without losing sight of the beauty and depth that can be found in stillness and contemplation.
That's beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But the conversation doesn't have to end here.
Right.
I encourage you to explore Tarr's films for yourself, to experience them, to grapple with them, and to see what you discover.
And remember, there's no right or wrong way to experience art.
Yeah.
Be open to the journey and see where it takes you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. It's funny, we've been talking about slowing down and really immersing yourself in Tarr's films, and I can't help but think about my own experience watching them for the first time.
Yeah.
I went in expecting something challenging.
Right.
And it definitely was, but not always in the ways I anticipated.
Oh, interesting. What surprised you the most?
Well, I think I went in with this preconceived notion that slow cinema would be, boring.
Okay.
And there were moments, where I felt that impatience, that urge to check my phone or do something else.
Right.
But then there were these other moments where I found myself completely captivated, drawn into the world of the film in a way that I had rarely experienced before.
That's the magic of Tarr, isn't it? He creates these moments of stillness and contemplation.
Right.
But they're never passive.
Yeah.
There's a tension, an underlying energy that keeps you engaged, even when outwardly not much seems to be happening.
Exactly. It's like he's forcing you to confront the passage of time, to really experience it in all its weight and complexity.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, is something we rarely do in our everyday lives.
Right. We're so used to filling every moment to distracting ourselves from the present.
Yeah.
But Tarr's films invite us to do the opposite, to sit with the discomfort, the uncertainty, the sheer vastness of time.
And I think there's a real beauty to be found in that, even if it's not always a comfortable beauty.
Right.
It's a reminder that there's more to life than just the constant rush, the need to be constantly stimulated.
I think that's one of the things that makes Tarr's films so relevant today, even though he's no longer making them.
Yeah.
We live in a world that's increasingly defined by speed, by instant gratification, by the fear of missing out.
Right.
And Tarr's work offers a powerful antidote to that. It's a reminder that there's value in slowing down and simply being present.
It's almost like a form of meditation in a way of training your mind to focus, to resist the urge, to constantly seek out the next distraction.
That's a great analogy, and I think that's something we can all benefit from.
Right.
Whether we're watching a Béla Tarr film or just taking a few moments each day to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to pose a final question to our listeners.
Okay.
What would it look like to apply this philosophy of slowing down, of mindful observation to your own life? How might it change the way you see the world, the way you interact with others, the way you experience each moment?
It's a challenge, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge worth undertaking. Because in a world that's constantly trying to speed us up, the ability to slow down, to truly see and appreciate the present moment, might just be the most radical act of all.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close. It's fascinating exploring the world of Béla Tarr with you all. Hopefully we've sparked your curiosity and given you some food for thought.
Remember, exploration doesn't end here. If you're intrigued, seek out Tarr's films, experience them for yourselves, and see where they take you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.